Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today we're going to continue our exploration into overcoming cancer and other obstacles. This is um, episode 7 of that series, and we're going to be talking today about the one thing that you do or have the ability to control. Before we get started, um, my name's Joe Grumbine, and on October 15th of this year, I was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma, and I am sharing with you the journey of me beating this thing. So right now, I'm facing a giant lump on my neck trying to kill me, and I am in turn trying to kill it back. And there's quite a little adventure going on, and the healthcare system is part of it. So, before I jump into this episode, I wanted to update from the last time where we had this glitch, and I was contacted by the company that does the PET scans, and they told me that they had made some changes and they needed to reschedule the appointment. And ultimately, I got an appointment for next week, the day before I'm supposed to go and see the specialist or the surgical team, I guess. And I contacted right after I found out all of this and was able to reschedule, at least not that far away. I contacted the doctor's office, and there's a nurse named Dusty who has been super helpful. And she's the one that originally checked me in, and I don't know, she's taken my health at least to be a little bit serious, more than anybody else in that I've come in contact with. Excuse me. And she told me after I had gotten this, I just updated her, told her what happened, that I got this different appointment. And she let me know that they actually had changed the scope of the scan. So this doctor that had done the biopsy on me had ordered a PET scan in a particular zone. And gonna measure from here to there. And this company decided, well, we know better than this doctor. We're going to change it. Not only did they change it, but that of course changed the date and really messed things up. And she was not happy about it, and said she was going to do everything she could to try to get this thing changed back to what it was. That didn't happen. But the one thing cool is that in this clinic that I'm going to, Riverside Medical Clinic, they've been very easy to work with. But the problem is, if you need to reach somebody, you have to start all over every time. And you go to the front desk, and then you got to ask to go to where you want to go. And then most of the time, nobody answers the phone. And then you got to go and hopefully get called back. It's a horrible phone system. But when you go there, they've been very pleasant and easy to work with. So, um, anyways, she actually gave me her direct contact number. And so now I'll be able to bypass all of this if I need to reach her again. And I thought that was really super cool. Once again, be your own advocate, because that's the only way anything's going to happen. I'm now 3 weeks since this biopsy, and this lump is not getting any smaller. I mean, I'm hoping that it is with all the other different things I'm doing, but frankly, if this thing was metastasized and spreading throughout my body, I'd be really screwed because there's nothing I can do to speed this up, and nobody seems to really care. So that's an important thing. If you ever are facing something, don't waste any time. Make sure you get on it because, frankly, everybody wants to hear about it, but there's nothing anybody can do. So be your own advocate. All right, so let's get into the topic of today. Um, there is there are a lot of things that we would like to have control over, and theoretically we do. Theoretically you can, with your mind and your will and your thoughts and all of these things, you can make changes in your body, make changes in your system with your affirmations and your visualization and your, you know, just all the different things. And I absolutely believe that these things are possible, but it doesn't always work out on the kind of timeline that you have. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know what the factors are. I don't know if you have to put in X amount of effort to get X amount of results, or sometimes it's just luck of the draw. I think there's just a lot of factors that we don't see and we don't understand, and sometimes we cannot quantify. So you just you deal with it. You get what you get. And the one thing that you do control is your attitude, how you see it. And I have been through 58 years of life. I've spent a lot of time around a lot of people. Um, I believe I was anointed at a young age to make change in the world, and I've always lived that way. And I'm not going to get deep into it on this conversation, but in future ones I probably will. But in my life, as I have sought wisdom and I've sought experience and I've sought to build a life, I've always been a pretty significant risk taker. I've always been willing to do difficult things, and I've gotten myself into some jams, into some really serious jams. And probably the biggest one up until this was um, more than 15 years ago now. I was operating a medical marijuana dispensary, and I was uh, providing medicine to sick people. And that turned into a raid, getting incarcerated numerous times, and having my freedom taken from me, and the threat of, serious prison time. They tried to lock me up for 12 years as a first-time offender. And mostly it was because I wasn't willing to bow to them and, take their plea deal. And I, contended my innocence, and I fought for it. Well, that was the hard way. And there was a time when I was incarcerated for a little while, and I can remember in this just dark and ugly place, and I can remember thinking to myself, this is where it all comes together. Another time it happened was when I broke my leg in the summertime, and I was, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, and I had to contend with the misery of that. And there were some dark moments there, but through it all, for some way or some reason, I have realized that keeping a good attitude is paramount. It's the one thing that they just can't take from you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens to you. I mean, I hope worse things don't happen to me, but um, if they do, it really comes down to how do I deal with it. And I can remember when I was locked up, I was sitting on this bunk, and I was in this big room with 150 other guys. and looking around and just going, shit, what am I going to do? And then I just said, you know what? I'm going to laugh. I'm going to find something to entertain myself with. I'm going to find some way to find humor in all of this, and I'm going to get through it. I said I could be sitting in Afghanistan somewhere and they could be drilling, my thumbnails out or, doing horrible things. And as uncomfortable and difficult as this is, it could be so much worse. And the same thing holds true. When I came out of all that, one of the things that, you know, people ask you, oh, hey, how are you doing? What's up? And when somebody asks me how I'm doing, and I still do it, not every time anymore, but often enough, I say I'm above ground breathing and currently out of custody. And that's a reference to your status um, when you're fighting a case. You're either in custody or you're out of custody. And the two pretty big difference. Above ground breathing, well, that means I've got it shot. That means I'm on the land of the living, and I have choices, and I have the ability to smile. I have the ability to whine and cry, and I just really think that that's a thing that makes the difference. So then I get hit with this, hey, you've got cancer, and you know, the whole time I've been dealing with this lump. Again, this doctor had told me, oh, well, you probably don't have cancer because um, how big this thing is, it would have consumed you by now. And I thought to myself, okay, well, that's cool. I've got this, non-cancerous thing that we just got to get out. And then they tell me that, not only is it cancerous, but it's a type of cancer that can be pretty aggressive sometimes. And then when you think that these doctors are not doing much, certainly not very quickly, it doesn't seem to be that important. I could see how that could get overwhelming. And there's times when I look at it and I just look at it and I refuse to let emotion build into it because I know it won't do any good. And I just say to myself, and I know that I'm going to beat this thing. And I know that my attitude matters. And I think that one of the things that can help, I was talking to somebody yesterday and he was going through, a rough patch, and he was talking about, being depressed and being in a dark place. And I know a lot of people that deal with depression, and I don't subscribe to that. I guess, fortunately, I guess my brain isn't bombarded with the chemicals that make that happen, or frankly, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just lucky. And I always say I've, got a sunny disposition, and I think a lot of it just has to do with looking at the bright side of life, looking at the things you do have, and it's pretty easy to find good things in your life and dwell on them and be grateful for them. And another thing, I really believe that we can affect our outcome. And there's all kinds of studies, and I've listened to all kinds of speakers, and it makes sense. And we create with our mind, and every single thing that was ever made, built, constructed was a thought in somebody's mind at one point. And whether it's a human or some um, creative force, God, if you will, uh, everything was a thought at one point. And it would stand to reason that the things that you think about are the things that you manifest, the things that you make happen in your life. And I know people that complain and whine and bitch all the time, and they never seem to have a shortage of things to complain and whine and bitch about. And I know other people that seem to have it so much worse than the people that are complaining, whining, and bitching. And they never have a negative thing to say. They are always sunny. They always smile. They always are grateful. They're blessed. They generally have a connection to spirit, and just it's such a difference. And I think that if you are complaining about something, I believe that those words that you say, those negative terms that you use, I think you give energy, you give life to those things that are bothering you. And at the same time, if you talk about your blessings, if you talk about the good things, um, and maybe even more so if you're grateful, if you're just thankful for these things, I think it makes it easier for them to happen. And one of the things I'm doing right now, it's kind of difficult because part of me just wants to see what is. Uh, I am doing everything I can to use natural techniques to combat this lump. And as it is right now, I haven't really seen any substantial change. But then I think to myself, well, what would it be like if you weren't doing any of this? You could be dead by now. Maybe you couldn't swallow. Maybe you were blind. There's so many ways that this could progress. And maybe that's what's happening. Maybe you're just holding it back. And, when they cut this thing out, it'll, we'll go after it. It's hard to say. Sometimes I think to myself, if it's taken everything I can just to hold it back, I can only hope that, this surgical team decides to get moving on this thing pretty quick. Because I'm doing a lot of things when it comes to diet and supplements and practices and different all kinds of different things. Um, I really think that the way I think about it really matters, and I just, frankly, I'm terrified to think anything negative. If that's a way to look at it. I think if I was to go into a dark place with this, I think it would, I really feel like I'm in battle, like I'm really battling this thing. And unfortunately, it has some of my will and my spirit in it. And so it's like fighting against myself on some level. Although it's not myself, it's a darkness, it's a parasite. It's something that is no longer me. It has changed from being me to something else. And even though it has some of my traits, some elements, it's separated. It's become something different. And so for that, I have no problem, focusing all my energy at it. So I really think that I'm surrounding myself with people that have good attitudes. I'm absolutely not allowing um, anybody with a bad attitude to have any time on my stage. I think that those are things that I do have control over. And one of the things that I'm starting to do more and more of, and I'm going to continue doing this and focusing on tuning in more sharply with my visual and just the feel of it all, is seeing that moment when they determine that it's gone after it's been removed, or after it just disappears. There will come this moment where I'm given the news, you're free. You don't have this problem anymore. And I believe it'll feel something like when the prosecutor decided to drop the case, and the judge said, "You're free to go." And 6 years of my life of being oppressed and on bail and incarcerated and all the things, all of a sudden, whoop, it was done. And so that's the moment that I'm trying to spend more time in and with. And so I really want to thank the people that have stepped up and decided to be a positive part of my life. Um, it's not a lot of people really, but it's enough people that I can rely on as a support team that I can really count on. And most of them are not related to me. These are people that I've either known for a long time. Some of them I haven't known for very long, but I have a team that I rely on that really is rooting for me and really and in real and significant ways is making a difference and helping me to carry and maintain a sunny disposition, a good attitude. So anyways, if you're going through something like this, really check yourself. Don't let yourself go into the dark place. You create what you think, and it makes a difference. So find something to be grateful for. And on that note, I will see you all next time. Thanks for being here with me. This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.